Do you remember that time Luke Skywalker had to use the Force to go into the Matrix so he could face down Lord Voldemort, throw that one ring into the fires of Mount Doom, and then buy back his grandma's house? Oh, no, wait, that's not right. That last one's just Happy Gilmore. He doesn't belong in there with Luke, Neo, Harry, and Frodo. What could a failed hockey player turned pro golfer with anger management issues possibly have in common with a Jedi, the One, a wizard, and a hobbit? And why would anybody even think to make that comparison in the first place?
I'll show you.
Let's go back to the beginning.
In third grade, I cheated on my history exam.
Okay, maybe not that far back. Let's say it's the late 1990s, and I'm watching Happy Gilmore for like the 4,000th time. And when it gets to that part when Happy learns how to access his happy place, something occurs to me. Happy's basically just using the Force here. Okay, it's not exactly the same thing, but basically what I was thinking at the time is that both Happy and Luke are accessing some sort of internal power to influence their external surroundings. I could almost hear Chubbs whisper, "Use the Force, Happy." So I thought that was kind of cool at the time, but I didn't really give it too much more thought until here we are 25 years later.
Yada, yada, yada.
I'm still obsessed with movies. I'm still making Seinfeld references. I've realized that what Happy's doing is not really anything like using the Force at all, but I thought there might be something there. So I decided to dig into his character arc a little bit more. And as I did, it started to feel very familiar. And then it dawned on me. Happy Gilmore is on a hero's journey. By now, I'm sure many of you are familiar with the idea of the hero's journey, but quickly, for those who aren't, the hero's journey is a term retroactively assigned to what a guy named Joseph Campbell called the monomyth in his 1949 book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces. What Campbell popularized was the concept that in a lot of works of fiction dating all the way back to the earliest stories told, the hero's character arc can often be described as following a common formula or pattern of steps. Quintessentially, the hero's journey begins in his regular ordinary world where he receives a call to adventure, which carries him on a journey to new lands, to meet new characters, some allies, some enemies. The hero often finds a mentor or guide, who sometimes dies. The hero will learn new skills and face challenges that they must overcome, internally and or externally. He will often discover a magical item that proves essential to the completion of the quest. Ultimately, the hero will sacrifice an old identity for a new one, and will then return at the end of the story to his ordinary world, a new person, changed by the experiences for the better, for himself and for those around him. Now, Campbell's version of the hero's journey included 17 steps. Those would later be whittled down to a broader 12 steps by a guy named Christopher Vogler in 1992 in his book, The Writer's Journey, Mythic Structure for Writers. The concept of the monomyth, or hero's journey, especially Vogler's condensed version, has been used to teach screenwriting to students for decades and has been applied as a descriptive example to many films over the years across all genres, including more traditional hero tales like Star Wars, The Matrix, Harry Potter, and Lord of the Rings, but also to less immediately recognizable hero tales like Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Juno, Field of Dreams, and It's a Wonderful Life. Which brings us to a 1990s cult comedy classic starring Adam Sandler. We're going to track Happy's story arc along with the steps of the hero's journey using Vogler's 12-step structure. We're also going to have Luke tag along, not only as kind of a reference point, but because we see some fun and surprising similarities between these two characters, and because the OG Star Wars movie is so widely associated with timeless classic mythology. So, thanks for joining me on Happy's hero's journey, and now, Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll. Happy Gilmore was written by Adam Sandler and Tim Herlihy, was directed by Dennis Dugan, and released in 1996. This content was written, performed, and edited by a human. All right, we're going to slow things down just a little bit here. We're going to keep going at kind of a brisk pace, but I can't keep up that pace like in the intro, like I'm doing a commercial or something. Do you remember that time Luke Skywalker saved 80% on his car insurance by switching to Mint Mobile? Anyway, probably I'll come up with a better intro idea before I publish. So, Happy Gilmore's story opens with a prologue of Happy's childhood in this Wonder Years style home video intro.
My name is Happy Gilmore. Ever since I was old enough to skate, I loved hockey.
And holy cannoli, there is some dark, tragic stuff in here right off the bat. First, we learn that because Happy's dad is so obsessed with hockey, his mom leaves them and apparently never comes back.
That's why she moved to Egypt, where there's not a hockey rink within 1,500 miles. Slapshot.
Then he sees his dad, his hero, killed right in front of him at a hockey game by a stray puck blasted into the stands. After which Happy develops violent anger issues that continue on into adulthood. This is a comedy, so it's all played for laughs, but can you imagine Happy Gilmore directed by somebody like Darren Aronofsky? Sheesh. Thankfully, Happy's grandma took him in and raised him to be a good guy, and Happy clearly loves and appreciates his grandmother very much.
She's the sweetest person in the world.
If we were to look at Happy Gilmore through the lens of Blake Snyder's film theory, Save the Cat, from his book, Save the Cat, Happy's love for his grandma would be his cat. It's the one redeeming quality that gets the audience on the side of the hero early on in the story, flawed though they may be. As we catch up with Happy's current situation, we see that he is what you might call an underachiever. He has trouble holding down a job, his girlfriend leaves him, and he still sucks at hockey. He doesn't make the local hockey team for the at least 10th time.
How many times this guy tried out anyway?
At least 10 times.
Happy just doesn't have the skills. He can't skate, his puck handling skills are atrocious, his anger issues are a problem. The only natural talent he seems to have at hockey is being able to hit the out of the puck. Oh, that's weird. That broken glass isn't broken anymore. But despite clearly not having what it takes, it remains his dream to become a professional hockey player.
Oh, well, better luck next year.
In fact, this is so much a part of Happy's identity that his girlfriend lists it's getting in the way of him developing as a person as one of the main reasons she is leaving him.
All you ever talk about is being a pro hockey player, but there's a problem. You're not any good.
Happy is already echoing the mistakes of his father and is heading down a bad path. The only good thing in Happy's adult life remains his grandma. He is there to help her out at a moment's notice. He is still a good grandkid and he would do anything for his grandma. This phase is step 1 of the hero's journey, the ordinary world. This is the status quo. This is how our hero's life story would continue on if nothing interesting ever happened to them. Luke Skywalker, of course, also has an ordinary world as Star Wars: A New Hope begins. Luke is a farm boy who dreams of adventure and joining a cause greater than himself in the academy. This is where we learn the general paradigm of our hero's existence, or the main theme of our character. Luke yearns for adventure that carries him far away from Tatooine and is curious about his father, whom he believes to be dead. Spoiler alert.
Bruce Willis is a ghost. He's been dead the entire time.
Happy is stuck in a lifestyle that doesn't fit with being an adult. He clings desperately and hopelessly to a failed hockey career. He can't hold down a job, and he apparently can't maintain a long-term relationship with a woman that's not his grandma.
Oh, that's wonderful, Happy.
I love you, Grandma.
Now, Happy's life gets more complicated when he learns that because his grandma hasn't been paying her taxes, the government is reclaiming her house.
What?
Coming up with enough money to buy it back is their only hope.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
They will somehow have to come up with $270,000 in the next 90 days. In the meantime, Grandma has to move out of the house, so Happy has to find her a nursing home to live in.
I am going to get the $270,000 and we're going to get your house back. That is a promise.
At the nursing home, we're also introduced to the character of nursing home nurse, played by an uncredited Ben Stiller. His name is never actually said, but his name tag tells us it's Hal L. Get it? Like she's in Hal?
Check out the name tag. You're in my world now, Grandma.
Oh, dear.
Cannoli, there is some tragic stuff in here right off the bat. We learn that Hal doesn't really have much bearing on the actual story or Happy's hero's journey, but he does add an important element. He is the... All right, we have movement. All right. So, thanks for joining me on Happy's hero's journey, and now... Little Hand says by Adam Sandler and Tim Herlihy, directed by Dennis Dugan and released in 19... All right. Once upon a time in Happy Gilmore land. Happy Gilmore's story...
Now your back's gonna hurt. Because you just pull landscaping duty.
Audience on the hero's side early on in the story. A reason? His girlfriend leaves him, and he still sucks at hockey. He doesn't make the local hockey team So Happy gets Grandma settled into the nursing home, and when he returns back to her house to collect things, he finds that the movers are goofing off, playing around with his grandpa's old golf clubs. Happy orders them to get back to work so that he can watch the hockey game, and then he ridicules golf. Such is his identity at this point.
Sorry, ladies, I'm not the golfing type.
Now, this might just feel like regular filler, mean-spirited jokes, but this dialogue here is actually important. It directly contrasts with the way Happy talks about golf later in the story, which reflects his development as a character and his change in attitude towards the game of golf.
No matter what, I gotta admit I'm having fun.
Happy Gilmore, you're starting to sound like a golfer.
Happy accepts a challenge from one of the movers. The bet is that if Happy can hit the ball farther than he did, they'll go back to work and he can watch his precious hockey game. So Happy grabs a club and he lines up. The movers laugh at his unorthodox golf swing, but he hits the ball and drives it over 400 yards.
Is that good?
That's unbelievable.
And then he does it 2 more times. So with this challenge, Happy unknowingly gets his first peek outside of his ordinary world as he discovers that he has a special talent. Bullseyeing womp rats. Now, it's being able to hit a golf ball really, really far, because of the hockey puck thing. So this is Happy's superpower. This skill is so special, it warrants a unique special camera shot. We get a POV shot from the ball's perspective as it flies through the air. We hear the whooshing of the wind and can feel the power of Happy's drive.
You like that?
This special visual device is only employed a couple of more times throughout the story in key moments, as we will see. With this newly discovered talent, Happy realizes the opportunity to make a few quick bucks and goes to the driving range at the local golf club, Waterbury, to exhibit his skill.
Hey, you should play in the Waterbury Open tomorrow.
Yeah, all right, I'll see you guys there.
While at the driving range, he is spotted by a one-armed man named Chubbs Peterson, a former golfer and head pro at the club who is hilariously played by Carl Weathers. Chubbs recognizes Happy's talent and decides right there on the spot that he is going to offer to coach Happy to play golf and then lead him to victory at the Waterbury Open Club Championship on this upcoming weekend.
He's gonna play. By God, he's gonna win.
This will fundamentally disrupt Happy's ordinary world of its hockey and relationship failure loop and ask Happy to step outside of his comfort zone in the second step of the hero's journey, the call to adventure. Chubbs approaches Happy and offers to teach him to play golf and win the upcoming tournament, the winner of which gets an automatic spot on the Pro Golf Tour, which means a chance to win money pretty much every weekend. This, of course, would mean that Happy would have an opportunity to earn some money to buy back his grandma's house. But we've already established that part of Happy's identity is that he so dislikes golf that he turns Chubbs down. He, of course, is a hockey player and golf is beneath him. It could be read by the way that Happy's call to adventure is when he finds out about his grandmother's house, that he's got to somehow earn this $270,000, because it calls Happy to action. But I would argue that that is not his call to adventure, because it is not what leads him on his path of self-discovery. It's not what leads him on his character arc. What actually does that is Happy, as he enters into the world of golf, as he slowly sheds away his identity of being a hockey player or having the dream of being a hockey player. So this is Happy's call to adventure here. Chubbs literally calls to Happy for adventure. In Star Wars A New Hope, Luke's call to adventure is, of course, when Obi-Wan tells Luke that he must accompany him to Alderaan and learn the ways of the Force.
Alderaan?
After hearing the call to adventure, neither of our heroes waste any time in getting to step 3 of the hero's journey, refusal of the call to adventure.
I'm offering to teach you how to play golf personally.
No.
You must learn the ways of the Force if you're to come with me to Alderaan.
No. I'm not going to Alderaan.
Luke can't go because he's got chores and stuff.
Got work to do.
And Happy initially declines Chubb's offer because of his intense distaste for golf.
Gold jacket, green jacket, who gives a shit?
Obviously, both characters do take up the challenge. Luke, after he discovers his Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru have been killed by Imperial forces.
I want to come with you to Alderaan.
And Happy changes his mind when he realizes that golf could legitimately be a way to earn enough money to save his grandmother's house.
I thought you were pro material. Prime to make the big bucks.
The refusal of the call to adventure is a more important step than it may seem. If done impactfully, it paints a plausible reason for why our hero might fail at the task asked of them. It does this by leaning on the character's weaknesses. We must believe that the hero is in ways unprepared for the journey and actually maybe shouldn't go, even though it's kind of the whole reason we're watching the movie. It is understandable for several reasons that Happy would do anything he could to avoid playing golf. Starting with the whole premise of the movie. The storytellers are counting on the audience understanding the difference between hockey and golf to get the entire setup. Hockey can be perceived as a blue-collar, brutal sport, graceful though it is. Golf is typically regarded as the graceful, white-collar, elegant sport, and this probably intimidates Happy. Add to that the fact that Happy has abnormal anger issues and can likely sense the problems those would present on a golf course. And if we want to get really deep about it, we can recognize the fact that Happy is playing with his grandfather's golf clubs.
No. Let me carry these, all right? They're my grandfather's. They're pretty old.
This may elicit in Happy a deep fear of failure and or disappointing his grandmother. If Happy's grandpa was a golfer, and it appears that he was, and Happy is playing with those clubs, he may feel immense psychological pressure to not sully the memory of his grandpa by behaving so poorly while playing with the clubs. So it totally makes sense for Happy to turn Chubbs down, and it shows a bit of bravery for him to accept, even if it is motivated by external factors like the sudden need for $270,000. So at this point, the storytellers have firmly established that Happy is doing this even though he really doesn't want to. So they have to find a way to ease Happy in psychologically to the idea of golf. And they do it with what could be considered another throwaway line when Happy says,
Whoa, must be Burt Reynolds or something.
Now, we know with almost certainty that's not Burt Reynolds, but Happy is obviously a fan of Burt Reynolds. And if he's already associating things that he likes with golf, then there might be other things about the game that Happy could get into. So again here, writers Adam Sandler and Tim Herlihy just showing how the emotionally manipulative nature of storytelling can be used so effectively to guide the viewers on a satisfying journey. It is at this stage, after the refusal of the call to adventure, that the hero often reaches step 4 of the hero's journey, the meeting of the mentor. But in both Happy Gilmore and Star Wars, the hero has met their mentor prior to refusing the call to adventure, which makes sense because it is the mentor themselves who are the ones who offer the call to adventure to our hero. But neither of them actually accept them as a mentor until afterwards. In fact, as we'll see, Happy doesn't truly accept Chubbs as his mentor until much later, but again, we'll get to that.
I'm stupid, you're smart.
All right. As long as you're willing to admit that.
In the limited time that they have together, Chubbs is obviously much more than a mentor to Happy, and he brings a much-needed weight or gravitas to the story. He takes golf very seriously, which Happy obviously does not at first. And Carl Weathers is so good as Chubbs. He plays the character with such earnestness, but still somehow manages to be absolutely hilarious.
Damned alligator just popped up. Cut me down in my prime. He got me.
And even though it's a comedic take on the role, Chubbs' sincerity is an essential part of Happy's development as both a golfer and a person. So, so this guy's kind of a replacement father figure for Happy, because Happy needed to see how a person can take a thing so seriously, but not let themselves get lost in it and not be too serious themselves.
Oh, leave me.
Get off of me.
Hey, just easing the tension, baby.
We can also not ignore the fact that Chubbs is missing a hand, having lost it to an alligator attack on a golf course, which ended his golf career. I find this very interesting because it calls to mind, of course, it is probably a reference to Carl Weathers' character losing his arm in the movie Predator, but it makes me think of two other stories. One, of course, being Luke Skywalker losing his hand in The Empire Strikes Back, but it also makes me think of the alligator nemesis of Captain Hook in Peter Pan, which is another story about a boy who refuses to grow up. Hey, thanks for watching. If you've made it this far and want to keep going on Happy's hero's journey, click the link for part 2.